One of my favorite games way back in the day was called Stronghold. It was a PC game where you had to build up exactly that, a stronghold to then defend yourself from attacks, and it was quality. So when I saw Becastled on the eShop, yeah, I was pretty taken with it, and the developers did reach out to see if we would cover it on the channel for a sponsored video. I mean, it didn't take me very long to say yes to that one. It's been so long since we've had a proper strategy game on the Nintendo Switch, but this one releases for exactly that, Nintendo Switch, and we've been sponsored by the publisher to check it out, show you everything about it, all of the little mechanics and intricacies. And whether it's going to be something that interests you, well, let us know down in the comments, because we've got a couple of copies to give away. So Becastled, what's it all about? Well, let's find out. Okay, so the main setup lets you learn the basics through a series of intricate tutorials. You can do that. I didn't actually do that. I like to go into these games and just figure it out, which was possible, but I should have done the tutorials. The reason for that is there's a lot more than meets the eye in terms of synergies between different buildings, requirements that you might need for certain materials, and yeah, it just went a lot further than I thought it would, and that is only a good thing. So it's a real-time strategy game whereby you place down your castle and then gradually build up your settlement around it. You can put houses down, begin to place buildings to then go out and gather resources like the wood or stone. And all of this is determined by the amount of villagers or inhabitants that you can have, which is linked to the number of houses you have. While you're doing that, you're also thinking about their happiness. And the game has a seasons system whereby it moves from the different seasons, which then has an effect on their morale. For example, when you hit winter, a lot of your buildings will actually shut down, so you won't be able to collect certain materials. It will enter what's known as winter mode. You can actually switch that off, but you really don't want to. They need to almost hibernate for the winter. And for that period, you should really have supplied enough food and resources for them. And you can also pause time whenever you want. So you can press one button, click the right stick in, and it will freeze time so you can sit and think about what you're going to do next. But the kicker with Becastled is that at night time, these monstrosities emerge from their towers and begin to attack your town. Now, the interesting thing is they will only survive as long as it's nighttime. So as soon as the sun rises, they'll disintegrate. But man, they can do a lot of damage. And each night they get progressively more aggressive. So you can't just sit around on your laurels and build a wooden wall and hope that everything's going to be fine. Your settlement has to flourish and gradually unlock new technologies. Now, technologies are handled by pressing the minus button, which brings up a large screen that showcases everything that you currently have, as well as the tree for where you can go. They're kind of grouped by the area that they're a part of. So one will be military based, the other resource gathering, and of course the castle and its walls. And each of them will require a set number of resources. So it might be some gold or some wood to unlock. And once you've done so, you can use them immediately. Now, placing buildings is really simple. You've got an L bumper radial wheel, which brings up all the different areas, such as housing, military, and you select these, click the building you want, and plonk it down on the ground. Any available workers will then head out and try and make it. Now, something to be aware of is that if you don't have enough people in your town, there's not going to be anyone to actually man that building, because once it's constructed, you then assign workers to it. Expanding your kingdom is a large part of Becastled as well, not only to allow you to create more places and units, but also to use the environment itself as tactical defenses, as it's on different elevations. Expansion's relatively simple. You click on the ground, and if you have the prerequisite resource, then you can purchase it and it becomes yours, extending your boundaries out to allow you to then build walls around that area. Not only this though, but any resources within that tile then become available to you. If it has a mine in it that you can access, then you could find new and potentially rarer resources that you can use to build up your army as well as your town. It has that nice flow to it, and I do miss playing these real-time strategy games, but having the option to pause gameplay is very handy. For troop management, you may construct something like an archery range, and you can set waypoints for those so that once they create your archers, they'll actually go to a specified location rather than standing around. But when night falls, all your inhabitants rush indoors, and that's where things really get hectic. The enemies can be quite savage, as I say, initially starting out so tame, but later on bring in huge golems, siege weaponry, and you'll see that those enemies originate from a number of towers that are around the map. and destroying those towers will eventually allow you to live in peace. Now, this is a Switch 1 release. I really do hope that they later add a Switch 2 set of controls, because things like mouse mode would be fantastic. And this doesn't feature touch screen, which is another thing I think some players would like, but the controls are quite good. You rotate the camera with a stick, you can zoom in and out with the triggers, and you select units and buildings with A. Everything there makes complete sense. But what you can also do, and why I should have watched the tutorial, is hold the A button down to create a large circular area to highlight and select your troops so that you can then command them where to go. But to tell them where to go, you actually press Y, which for some reason just didn't seem intuitive to me and took me ages to figure out. Again, if I'd have watched the tutorial, I would have, yeah, we get the picture. The winter mechanics are really quite clever, because not only do they affect the happiness of your town, they affect what you can produce in terms of food, but also the military strategies that you're going to have to use to defend yourself. For example, if there's a river nearby, during winter it will freeze and the enemies can walk straight over the top of it. When you do come under attack, you can close down your gates. You can manually open those as well if you want, but invariably, at some time or another, some buildings, structures are going to be destroyed. You can repair these or demolish them and create something new, but it never feels too damning. If you survive the night, you've got a good opportunity to rebuild and even make yourself stronger before the next one. You also seem to get a good amount of time before the enemies show up, so you won't find yourselves scrabbling around, desperately just working towards the night. There is that feeling of a more relaxed pace, but with that ever-present threat that's made very clear by this symbol at the top middle of the screen that shows the current time of day. Now, it wouldn't be a simulation game worth its salt, in my opinion, if it didn't have some form of natural disasters. In Becastled, a storm can kick up and set a huge fire blazing within your town, damaging buildings, and the lightning seems to have an area of effect, so thinking about the position and placement of structures is important. Although I would say it's not as important as some games. You don't have to panic about gaps between buildings. There'll always be enough room for people to move around. Now, outside of the tutorial, the game's very freeform. There's not a strict campaign. You've got free play mode and sandbox mode. Free play starts you out at a random location and you gradually build up in a scenario, starting with the most lowly technology, eventually ending in an unstoppable force. That's the plan. And then you've got sandbox mode that gives you absolutely everything from the get-go. When it comes to visuals and performance, as mentioned, this is a Nintendo Switch 1 release, and as such, it doesn't have those Switch 2 features that I spoke about. It runs at an uncapped frame rate, and as your settlement gets very large, you will see some drops in performance. Now, if you're running it on Switch 2, it seems to lock at 60 and it holds it almost all of the time. So you've got two different ways there, but I hope they do add things like mouse mode in the future. The game can get a little unstable at times. I've had one crash when things got really busy on screen. So that is, again, something that we should see patches for. There have actually been patches before you guys have even seen this video, so they are working on it. But I do like the aesthetic of it. It looks nice. It has that 3D style, almost low poly, with a real-time lighting system that moves throughout the daytime. Becastled retails at £22.49 or your regional equivalents, but it does have a 10% launch discount, which takes it down to £20.24 until October the 30th. It seems like there's a good amount to do. I would like some sort of scenario in the future. That would be very cool. But for strategy fans, you're going to have more than enough to sink your teeth into. So that's it really. Let me know down in the comments. What did you think of this game? Is it one that you're interested in? Are you a strategy fan, or is this a genre maybe that you've not tried before? As we say at the start, we will be giving away a copy of this one. Just leave your comments down below letting us know what was your favorite strategy, or is, I should say. It'll be nice to have more on Switch. Thank you to our Patreons, our members, and all of you that enjoy the content. For all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys. See ya.